All right, our next category is the other team that got me surprisingly excited. And you are all in on the Iowa Hawkeyes on here. And again, I talked to people like the first half, everybody was like, it's same old Iowa. And then they went crazy in the second half. Like, is that what got you excited about what Iowa did on Saturday?
Yeah, I was one of the same old Iowa people in the first half. They started out punt, field goal, turnover on downs, punt, field goal. That was the first half for Iowa, and then they started scoring touchdowns. And I think my thing with Iowa, we talked about this when they made the change from Brian Ferentz to Tim Lester at offensive coordinator, and it was, can you get me another touchdown per game? And I am a believer in the third. I'm a believer in the third touchdown now. They averaged 15 points per game last year. I think they will exceed that this year. They put up a 40 spot on Illinois State, and like it's an FCS team. How much stock do you want to put into that? It's the most yards they've had and the best yards per play they've had in like 5 years, and they played some pretty bad teams in that span too. So like, I don't care who they played. The fact that they showed the ability to do this on offense meant something to me. So like Cade McNamara, I thought settled in a little bit. Caleb Johnson, the running back, did not play in the first half and then ran for like 112 yards in the second half. Luke Lachey, I thought, looked good. It was nice to see him back and part of the mix offensively. And they might have a receiver who's worth watching too, and true freshman Reese Vanderzee, who is the first true freshman to start a season opener in the Kirk Ferentz era, and he had 2 touchdowns in this game. He looked pretty good, looked pretty explosive, looked like a bit of a playmaker. So there are some pieces there that are interesting. And it's not, I'm not saying watch out for Iowa, here comes a top 25 offense. I'm saying Iowa might have like the 85th best offense in the country this year, and that's pretty good for a team that plays defense the way they do.
And it's just, well, I mean, like if it had continued the whole game like it did in the first half, people would be going nuts right now.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So that they got through that and that Cade McNamara got through that. I know people were joking that, like, I saw some joke that was like Kurt Ferentz fell asleep on the couch in the second half and his wife called Seth Wallace and said, like, go ahead and let it rip now. He fell asleep. You know, like it's just like I thought it had a chance. I thought it would be clunky for Iowa without Kirk Ferentz and all this, and that I think Lester's going to be better than people expected, but that it wasn't in the second half, that it didn't take a whole game, just took a half.
Yeah.
Great credit to Iowa for that. Absolutely.
Yeah. Look good.
All right. Team that got me surprisingly excited is Purdue. And this is a Purdue team that I did think would be better than being picked last in every Big Ten preseason poll. Hudson Card, 24 of 25 for 273 yards and 4 touchdowns. I think the miss was a deep shot that he barely overthrew, like on the second drive of the game. Jamal Edrin's like a 6'3" receiver who looks like a dude. I thought he was really impressive to watch. Their tight end was good, Max Clare. We talked about Shamar Rigby as a true freshman at receiver, and Terrion Grant as a true freshman at corner. 2 guys in the backfield with Devin Mockabee and Reggie Love. I just thought that this looked like, and again, we understand overmatched opponents. We do understand that.
Sure.
But if Jamal Edrin's like a number 1 receiver, and I just thought Hudson Card looked settled in, and there's another guy that I'm going to talk about in a second in the Big Ten who's a transfer quarterback in year 2. Right, Joe Burrow transfer, but in year 2 is when he hit. Michael Penix, year 2. Bo Nix, year 2. Sometimes we get psyched up for the first-year transfer quarterback, and then the second-year transfer quarterback, we're like, he wasn't that good in year 1, and you kind of give up, and that's actually when it happens. So I was looking for this. Dylan Thieneman's a nice punt returner, too, besides being a good safety. I was was on alert for this, and again, overmatched opponent, but I thought Purdue showed me something, and I'm getting a little excited for Purdue Notre Dame in September. I'm not calling a shot on the Boilermakers or anything, but like really good first game for Ryan Walters and those guys.
We mentioned this last week. So Purdue's off this week. They get 2 weeks to prepare for Notre Dame. And we know what Purdue can do to good teams, or has done in the past. Yeah. So like to start the season this way, like I had an eye on it. Like I thought there's 2 things with Purdue. One, could the defense take a step forward? And it seems like they have. I guess we'll learn more when they play a team with a little bit more of a pulse. But it was also about what the jump that Hudson Card can make, because you and I both liked him when he transferred there. Saw some upside that he didn't demonstrate all that much last year. So if this, not to say he's going to do this every week, but if this is more of an indication of where he's headed, then I think there's reason to be optimistic there.
All right, so let's go to a similar conversation for me. This is the category, the team that changed my mind. And I'm ready to just like admit defeat, not admit defeat, just admit that I was wrong already on Illinois. because I thought Illinois was going to be at the bottom of the Big Ten, and I thought they had a lot that I really liked. J.C. Davis, who popped in the spring as a transfer at left tackle, is just, he's awesome, man. Like, right? Like, Wyatt Milam was really good for West Virginia before he cramped up in that game, but like J.C. Davis is really good. We've talked about some of the other, like, our all northern tackles, right? Ursery at Minnesota and the Oregon guys and all these things. Like, we got to put J.C. Davis on this list too. He's awesome. And then we have a northern Derrick Henry. Are we doing this right? Everyone calls it. We're not calling this overreactions, because as soon as you call it overreaction, you can say anything. And then it's like, I didn't even mean it. It was an overreaction. This is a reaction. I'm not claiming this as over. We have a northern Derrick Henry. Caden Fagan is 6'3", 250. And last year he was big. He had like 100 carries last year, but he didn't look as quick, I thought. And I thought he looked like a downhill monster, like with good feet at that size. 16 carries for 108. And then Aiden Loffrey, 9 carries for 79. Caden and Aiden make the shirts. Make the shirts for the Illinois backfield. And then they have like multiple targets. And I thought Luke Altmaier looked really settled. And they mentioned that on the broadcast, that he thought like his biggest problem last year is like his mind wasn't in the right place and he wasn't allowing himself to play well. And he was too worried about making mistakes. I thought he looked incredibly in control. And they brought in Zachary Franklin in the portal late, who's like leads all active NCAA receivers in everything. He's really good. There's a couple other receivers that they have that are like legit dudes. And I just thought, I don't know, brother. Pat Bryant had a really good game at receiver. He had a couple touchdowns. Malik Elzy had a 34-yard touchdown. That was really good. Luke Altmaier was the first Illinois quarterback with 4 touchdown passes in the first half since 2015. Sign me up for this Illinois offense. And again, like, I am fired up now for Luke Altmaier and Caden Fagan against Jalen Daniels and Devin Neal. Kansas coming into Illinois this week. Like, let's go. I think Illinois is going to be ready for that game. Am I too hyped on Illinois?
No, because I think Illinois like showed you what you would want to see from them in an opener like that, right? Like,
yeah.
For me, it's running the ball. If they can run the ball and not have Luke Altmaier in situations where he has to throw the ball 45 times a game for you to think you have a chance to win, then that's a pretty nice sweet spot, I think, for Illinois. So if they can come out and run the ball against Kansas, even if they don't win, if they can run the ball against Kansas, I'll buy that as being real. And then I would also be changing my mind on Illinois too, if that's the case. Yeah.
Is Northern Derrick Henry too much? You watch that guy?
Yeah, he's a dog. Run? I like him. Yeah. I like him a lot. I think it's I mean, physically, it's a really good comparison, right? He's just like a big, tall, upright runner. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. So again, like if you haven't watched Illinois play offense recently, like, tune in. It's gonna be a great week 2 slate for the North, but like Illinois, Kansas is moving up the list of games that like I am super curious about. All right, that's the team that changed my mind. What's the team that changed your mind?
The team that changed my mind is Pitt, and you and I each have a thought on this, so I won't try to step on your toes too much as it relates to Eli Holstein. I would just say that for me, it was the offense clicking faster than I thought it would. And there was a couple of things there too. I expected quarterback shenanigans in this game from Pitt when Pat Narduzzi names Nate Yarnell the starter in spring. There's like a back and forth in camp. He names a different starter going into the year, but I think pretty strongly intimates that both are going to play.
Mm-hmm.
I came into the season looking at a situation where, like, okay, they're going to have some back and forth at quarterback. This is going to be clunky as they try to figure things out. And then he just sort of played Eli Holstein like he was a starter. And then the offense looked really good. So if this offense has found its footing, and maybe it's too much to say that it's found its footing when you're playing Kent State, but I thought it was far more impressive than I believed it was going to be, even for playing an opener against Kent State. It'll be tested now moving forward with Cincinnati and West Virginia coming up. Like that, those are more true tests of actually where they're at. But I thought offensively they looked great. They looked explosive. I guess it helps that there are a fair amount of Western Carolina guys that came with Cade Bell to help this system maybe take hold a little faster. But Eli Holstein looked comfortable directing it. Desmond Reed looked great as a running back. I think he had like almost 200 all-purpose yards in this game, maybe over 200 all-purpose yards. I think Pitt has weapons at receiver and tight end. And this was a team that I had like kind of scraping its way to a bowl game because I was totally unsure of its offense. And now I'm thinking maybe this is a team that finds that threshold a little more comfortably. Maybe pushing for something more like 7, 8, 9 wins if this offense is going to look how it looked in the first week.